Grace, mercy, and peace are yours from God our Father and our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. The words for our consideration here this morning are recorded in the Gospel for this fourth Sunday of Easter from the Gospel of John, chapter 10, reading the first 10 verses. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore, Jesus said again, "Very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." The words of our text. By most measures, by most estimates of industry experts, the Minnesota Vikings had a very good draft last weekend. Nate Hunt, if you're listening, I even heard or read one report that gave them an A+ in their draft. By most measures, those same experts, those same prognosticators gave the Packers a very poor grade. In fact, I saw even one F for their draft. If only they had drafted a wide receiver, the thought goes. This team that was one win from playing in the Super Bowl last year would have given Aaron Rodgers another tool, another weapon to keep pace with their own division, their own conference, and the whole league. If they had made a different choice, they might win. So the thought process goes of the experts observing the NFL and the teams of the NFL. During this Easter season, we've been focused on this theme of victory, the victory that we have in Jesus. And today we're reminded that there is no if in this victory. He gives it to us. I said that it is Good Shepherd Sunday, and certainly our thoughts are drawn to the thoughts that are contained in that most familiar Psalm 23, the Good Shepherd Psalm. We'll look at that in Bible study coming up too here a little later this morning. There we see that picture of a good shepherd whose rod and whose staff, they comfort us. They bring us peace as we follow him. The first half of this 10th chapter of John's Gospel fills in that picture for us a little bit of Jesus as our good shepherd. In fact, in our 3-year series of readings that we use in worship, from which most of our sermon texts are drawn, on this fourth Sunday of Easter, the gospel is always taken from this 10th chapter of John, just a different portion of it as it highlights again and again and reiterates Jesus as our good shepherd. But it's important for us here today to look at that and recall that Jesus didn't just go into this good shepherd discourse, this parable, this teaching on himself as good shepherd in a vacuum or out of the blue as he was walking with his disciples somewhere in Palestine. No, it comes on the heels of chapter 9. And it's a continuation of that account where Jesus has healed that man who had been blind from birth, that causes the Pharisees to question the man, to become indignant with him, to even become indignant then with Jesus, because he dared to heal this blind man and do it on the Sabbath. Chapter 9 concludes, some Pharisees who were with him heard him say this and asked, "What? Are we blind too?" Jesus said, "If you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains." And that's then where chapter 10 picks up, and Jesus continues to call them out further in our text. In verse 1, "Very truly I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber." And he's pointing his finger directly at those Pharisees. You are thieves and robbers trying to steal away my sheep. They weren't shepherds. Though they had spiritual care of the people, the Pharisees were one of those two prominent religious sects for the people of Israel at the time. They couldn't go to the gate and show themselves to the gatekeeper and be let in. They had to sneak in. They had to use some other means, because their goal was not care and concern for the sheep, but to steal them away, to cause harm, to enlarge and enrich themselves and their own flocks and their own followings. They were not true shepherds. They certainly are not the shepherd. I grew up on a farm. Some of you perhaps know that. And it's amazing the instinct of animals when a stranger approaches. They can tell when it's a stranger and when they are unsure of what the intent of that person is. They'll scurry around in the pen in which they are kept. They will hustle to the far corner of that pen. They will cuddle together, seeking safety in that herd mentality. That's the kind of thing that Jesus says is happening here with the people of Israel. When those strange voices of the Pharisees come, seeking to do harm to his people. He continues on. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. What a contrast, huh? between Jesus and those false teachers, those Pharisees, those who came and tried to do them harm. Jesus walks out to this communal sheep pen. The gatekeeper recognizes him. He lets him in. He goes in. He brings out all those who are part of his flock. They follow him willingly and gladly. And he leads them out because he cares for them. Those sheep know that. They know their owner, his familiar voice. They probably even recognize his walk, the way, the pace at which he walks. So many of us have a familiar gait, if you will. They remain calm and sure in his presence, even coming to him, because they recognize his voice. In the presence of the Good Shepherd, there is confidence, because we know who the Good Shepherd is and the goodness that he gives. Goodness that is seen in victory. Goodness that inspires confidence to the flock under his care. You know that Good Shepherd. You recognize his voice. You've heard it regularly and faithfully. It's familiar to you as he calls you in his word, as he instructs you with his commands, as he reminds you of his presence and his gracious promises, even now. Even in this difficult and trying time, a time that fills us with anxiety and fear and uncertainty and frustration. Amidst it all, you know that your Good Shepherd cares for you, and he will lead you through this difficult, this trying time here in this world. When the Pharisees didn't understand this picture that Jesus was painting, drawing their attention to the way that they tried to sneak in, to trick the people, to turn them to their own ways, and to steal them from Jesus, he continued on. Therefore, Jesus said again, "Very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture." He is the shepherd, and he is the gate. That is the only one through whom sheep can come in and go out, because he's watching over them. There's only one way for those sheep to find pasture, and that's through Jesus, the gate. All those other false Christs, those false prophets, those false teachers, including, yes, those very Pharisees whom Jesus is addressing, filled the sheep with false hope. They didn't have the best intentions for the sheep, but their own in mind. Jesus says his sheep haven't listened to them. They haven't been led astray to false thinking, to false hope. That's you. That's me. You listen to his word. You hear his voice. You see his goodness. You trust the one who leads you consistently to the green pastures in the still and quiet, refreshing waters of sins forgiven. There is no if. All who enter through Jesus, did you catch it? Will be saved. Whoever enters through me will be saved. Think about that for a moment. Where false teachers come and rob and steal and even kill, Jesus says, in Him there is safety. In Him there is security. In Him there is salvation. Today and eternally. He doubles down on that contrast. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. That's not a tough concept for us to grasp today, I don't think. There are still today so many false prophets, so many false teachers. We do well to test them as to whom we will ultimately listen. False teachers who would have you believe if you follow Christ, you will have no difficulty, no trouble in this life. That's really challenged at a time like this, is it not? Where no one in the whole world is free from the concerns of this global pandemic caused by the coronavirus. If we take that to its ultimate end, that we only have good things in this life and never any trouble, what does that say at a time like this? The illness, the death, the fear, the anxiety, and even without those symptoms, the lockdown, the stress. Certainly there is a negative impact on each and every one of us, even us who are in the care of our Good Shepherd, Jesus. But that shouldn't surprise us. It's in keeping with Jesus' own words. He said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world." And that's what he has in mind when we come to this last line of our text for today. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. That is to say, an abundance, overflowing blessings. The pasture he talks about, those still, quiet waters we picture in such a serene way as Psalm 23 fills us with. That's spiritually. That's the gifts that he gives us in this life spiritually. Forgiveness for all those bad choices we've made, those times when we've turned to ourselves, our own ability, those times we've listened to false teachers and become confident in ourselves. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Where sin is forgiven, guilt is taken away, fear replaced with peace, anxiety turned to complete confidence in him. In no small measure, not sometimes, Not for some sins that are in that middle group, not too small where we can make up for them, not too big where Jesus can't possibly pay, but all of them, of all time, again and again and again, over and over, with Jesus, our good shepherd, giving victory, there is abundance, today and forever. None of us knows what this coronavirus will bring. None of us knows really how much longer we will continue in stay-at-home orders and limited gathering sizes and social distancing. Though we all long for an ability to get back together, the longer this goes on, the more we recognize just how God has made us to be social beings. In life in this world with Jesus, we may have to go through some of these physical troubles. If not, if being connected to Jesus kept us free from all of that, we would have probably given up all our hope in Him by now, because who of us hasn't faced those physical troubles? But we do have His promises. We do have confidence that no one and nothing else can give. One that is ultimately an endless life of blessings in His presence here and now today, and before His throne forevermore, in the green pastures, in the glory and bliss of heaven itself. Amen.